The engine roars had barely faded over the still-shaken streets of downtown Chicago before NASCAR made its next move. Not an apology, not a press conference with bowed heads and regretful tones, but a briskly worded directive that changed the landscape of city racing overnight. Onlookers expected sorrowful sound bites. Instead, NASCAR doubled down with action. The Chicago Street Race, a crown jewel experiment in urban motorsports, had ended in chaos. What began as a thunderous, crowd-thrilling spectacle through Grant Park's grid lines turned into a tangle of carbon fiber, shattered concrete, and social media firestorms when a three-car pileup at Turn 7 spun debris into the viewing barricades. No fatalities, but dozens injured. The chaos wasn't just physical. It had rippled through fan trust. Yet in the command center at Daytona Beach, NASCAR brass weren't crafting a scripted apology. They were drafting a memo. "We recognize challenges revealed during the Chicago event," the memo began, conspicuously omitting words like regret or fault. Effective immediately, new urban track standards will be implemented, along with expanded driver briefings and enforced weather contingency protocols. It was bureaucratic balm on a blistering wound, but it signaled something deeper. NASCAR wasn't retreating. They were regrouping. Behind closed garages, insiders whispered that the Chicago incident had been weeks in the making. Some blamed faulty barriers, others criticized the rain-drenched course that had gone green anyway. Veteran driver Garrett Hammerhanes, who'd been one of the three involved in the crash, had tweeted only one word the next day: preventable. When pressed for comment, NASCAR officials declined interviews. But one crew chief, speaking anonymously, revealed, "We all saw this coming." That track was slicker than a Georgia backroad after a summer storm. NASCAR wanted spectacle, and they got it. They just didn't plan for what happens after the fireworks. Yet NASCAR's new directive was as precise as it was unapologetic. Among the most notable mandates: urban track redesign. All city street courses now require reinforced spectator barriers and 2 runoff zones per lap, regardless of local limitations. Real-time weather stoplight system. Races would be automatically paused under designated conditions without human override. No more aggressive gambles against Mother Nature. Mandatory on-foot walkthroughs. All drivers must physically walk their city tracks pre-race to visually inspect potential hazards. No more relying solely on telemetry and drone flyovers. The culture shock. NASCAR fans are no strangers to danger. Wrecks have long been part of the sport's DNA, moments of chaos that often elevate legends. But the Chicago crash was different. It felt avoidable. Social media had turned into a coliseum of criticism overnight. You crash in Talladega, that's racing. You crash in downtown Chicago and take out 2 food trucks and a dozen spectators. That's negligence, wrote one popular motorsports blogger. Yet some drivers supported the no apology directive. "I don't need a sorry. I need changes that keep fans and drivers safer," said up-and-comer Marissa Doyle, who had narrowly avoided the crash after her car lost traction on a manhole cover. "We're gladiators in this sport, but even gladiators needed a safe arena." Still, the directive didn't sit right with everyone. Tanya Mendez, whose 11-year-old son suffered a fractured arm when debris hit the crowd, stood near the site of the accident days later, holding a protest sign that read, "Wearies our ACKNOWLEGMNT." "Directives are fine," she said, tears in her voice. "But is it so hard to say, 'We're sorry this happened'? We matter too." Behind the move, some industry veterans theorized that NASCAR's unapologetic stance was calculated. In an age of PR firms and lawyers, apologies can carry legal implications. Admitting fault could open floodgates for litigation, especially in a case involving injured spectators and questions about course safety. But others saw a more cynical motivation. "They're protecting the brand," said journalist Eli Thompson, who's covered NASCAR for over 2 decades. NASCAR is trying to lure younger viewers, diversify its audience, and grow internationally. Admitting failure in a marquee event like Chicago could shake investor confidence. Indeed, the urban races were a major strategic pivot. Bringing NASCAR to city streets was meant to modernize the sport, make it Instagram-friendly, exciting, unpredictable. Chicago was supposed to be a proof of concept, not a cautionary tale.